I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of the masters, and the mercy, compassion of the grand predecessors, senior transmitters, lecturers, temple masters, everyone for giving me this opportunity today to talk about today's topic, which is the Tao Te Ching chapter 53. It's about an average length, slightly below average length, but still a lot to say. Okay, the title of this chapter 53 is called the Great Dao, or we say broad and plain or even and level, Dao. Okay, it's divided into 4 sections. First one is the intro, then the next 2 sections 2 and first half of section 3. Sorry, it's 3 sections. First half section is the analysis, and then the last 2 phrases is section 3 is the conclusion, and it's very and it's very emphatic. All right. Okay. So that's the overview. Let's go to the outline. So the first sentence or line is, if I have a little knowledge walking on the Great Dao, I only fear deviating from it. Okay. So basic meaning is, if I know even a little bit, or actually anything at all, just have some knowledge or understanding, I would follow the Tao. That's what the first phrase, if I have a little knowledge, okay? Or the first 2 phrases, the first, okay, all right, but, okay, sorry. All right, okay. If that's what, if I have just a little bit of knowledge, sorry, I would be following the Tao. That's the, sorry, another meaning is, first, let's look at this. Even if I know even a little bit, or actually I would follow the Tao. Or you could say, if I have just a little bit of knowledge, I would be following the Tao. Okay. Or if I really know what I'm doing, or if I even have just a little bit of sense, I would be following the Tao. Okay, so that's what that first phrase means. Or anybody with any knowledge or sense to follow the Tao. So he's pretty emphatic about that. Okay, now to walk the Tao means walking on the Great Dao. That's the second phrase. Means a couple things. The most basic is to learn the Tao teachings. Okay. The second is, after learning the Tao teachings, apply them to life. Okay, so it's basically cultivating. That's another way of saying walk the Great Dao means to cultivate, not just cultivate, but cultivate and to practice, learn and practice. I guess that's cultivation too. Okay, this also means to travel the best path for your own destiny. Okay, and then further is, no one can dictate what is the best path for you except yourself. Okay, so that's important. So for some people, they already know what their destiny ought to be, but others are still on a journey of discovery, of exploration as to what their destiny should be. Okay. So that's the implication that, some people still don't know the way, right, or the path. Okay, the third phrase, last phrase is, now the only fear is that you would stray from walking or following on the great path of Tao. Okay. Now another meaning is, you would be afraid for those who are, beginning to walk on the path of the Tao. They'd be afraid of departing from that great path. Okay, from the great path of Tao. Or the only thing that I fear is to stray from the Tao without knowing it. Okay, so. All right. Just a deeper meaning of this. It means to govern. Okay, to govern, or administer. So the deeper understanding is to walk the path of Great Dao is to already know the truth of heaven and earth. That is when you have attained the knowledge of everything. Okay, that's the higher level. The fear is to administer this material world, because that means you need to enter into the conditioned state. That is to enter this dualistic state, the physical, the material realm, doing things with conditions and agendas. Okay, that's what this material dualistic state is. We've seen it in previous chapters, right? Chapter 46, 47, okay, or 47, 48. We talked about the non-conditioned state, right? Okay, so this is the opposite. We're doing things with conditions and agendas. That is to instruct or teach people, right? Because once you start instructing or teaching people, there are conditions, there are agendas, right? Intentions, goals, objectives, whatever, all that. So that's when you enter, into that dualistic state. Okay, so, and the fear is therefore not being able to do a good job, all right? So the implication is, if anyone has any knowledge or sense, you could say that has, that could imply some wisdom or higher level, knowledge, understanding. They would follow the Tao. Okay, people who are aware, who are more spiritual. Okay, they would follow. Where anyone can learn the Tao teachings and apply them to their lives. The only fear is to stray from the Tao without realizing it. Okay, or without achieving it. Okay, without being to, we say, either to grasp or to keep onto the Tao. Remember previous chapter, keep onto the mother, right? Or hold on to the mother. Okay, that's without realizing. So we should understand that we create problems ourselves when we fail to follow the Tao. Okay, so if you want to know the truth, is to follow the Great Tao. The only fear is to stray from the Tao without realizing it, without understanding it, realizing it, holding on to it, okay, and end up having to enter into the conditioned state and administer this material world. The fear, minister to me means, you just have to deal, meaning to deal with this, okay? And the fear is not being able to benefit sentient beings. So if you have any sense at all, or understanding knowledge, following the path of Tao and not deviating from it is our best advantage. So this is a warning to not stray from the Tao. Okay, all right. Okay, this is the second half of the first section, the intro. Okay, so now he's okay. So the Great Tao is broad and plain, but people prefer side paths. Okay. Yeah, this character, this last character, first phrase, it means this. It has a lot of, it just means very broad, even, level, plain, smooth, easy, or safe. Okay, so the context is that the Great Tao, okay, is a very broad, flat, level, and smooth avenue, road, okay, path, road. It's perfect for walking, or it's like a paved road built for convenience and travel. So that's what the Great Tao, of course, from Lao Tzu's perspective, it's like that. Okay, the path is already, or the road is already paved for us by the previous either Tao cultivators or Tao masters or sages, and the direction is clear. Okay, you won't get lost if you stay on that path or that road. Okay, so that's why it's smooth, level. It's not bumpy. Okay, it's not curvy, or I wouldn't say curvy, but it's not twisted. Okay, or bent. Okay, so this is describing the path of Tao, like that of a broad, flat, level, and plain road to travel on. So this Tao is like a plain paved road made for everyone to travel on. All right, so the Great Tao is very even, level, smooth, and easy to walk and work on. All right, another is the Great Tao is described this way because its essence is simplicity. Yeah, right. Why is it even, level, broad, flat, straight, because it's simplicity. Okay, there's nothing strange or hazardous about the Tao. Okay, thus the Great Dao is compared to a Y-level road that is easy. Now, we can say, but this doesn't seem to jive with previous chapter. We talked about what's the remember the mystic virtue. Well, that's different, right? The mystic virtue is just a manifestation. Okay, you can say it's a function, manifestation of the Tao. But the Tao itself, the essence. Now he's talking about essence here. It's very plain, very simple. Okay, all right. It just is, right? Okay, so that's the difference. Okay. Further understanding of the first phrase is the Great Dao has no secrets. Everything about it is hiding in plain sight. It has no riddles nor paradoxes. It is just normal, regular, everyday living in accordance with the Tao, living in accordance with nature, right? We talked about nature, right? Previous chapters, right? One, at the highest level, or the purest, simplest, most plain level, nature can be equated with wu wei, right? Non-conditioned, non-attached, non-subjective, or non-dualistic, right? That's what nature is. And the Tao is that. Okay, the Tao is just like that. And we all have that true nature. Remember, right? We talked about that previous classes. True nature. So that's the essence. It's just purely pure. It's called the what's that? The pure simplicity of the nameless, right? The nameless. It's talking about the Tao essence because it has no name, right? You can't touch it, see it, right? It's intangible, right? But it's very pure, very simple. So there's no riddles nor paradoxes. So there's no special secret knowledge of the Tao, or some secret teaching of the Tao. The Tao is just very plain, very simple. All right, we all have it. Now, it uses its manifestations, applications, functions, can be very profound, very marvelous, right? It's because you could say it's indescribable. The essence too, you can say it's indescribable because it's not one or the other. That's the problem. Okay, so so just that's what Lao Tzu says. But in its core, it's just pure, simple. Okay, very straightforward. Okay, that's another previous chapter. I think it's 45. I think it's 45. Yeah, clarity and stillness, or purity and quietude. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to the second phrase. All right. Basic meaning of the second phrase is, but people, right? He's saying the Great Dao is broad and level, but people prefer the side path. The side path means the shortcuts. Okay, that's the thing. All right, because people think the Tao is very mysterious, right? Very profound. So they think it's not that. There's there's something more, right? So and it's difficult, right? It's like because it's so mysterious. So there must be shortcut. There must be another way, okay, to get to know it, because they think it's very mysterious, etc. Okay, and it might take a long time to understand it, which is true. I mean, to a degree, that because the Tao, to follow the Tao is to follow it for the whole life, right? Not for one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, few years. It's not like that. Okay. So another meaning of second phrase is when traveling, just like using the metaphor for traveling, like a journey of life. People try to take shortcuts because they think it is shorter, only to end up wasting time or even get lost, right? Because hey, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to spend too much time. Time is short. So there must be a shortcut, an easier way, or, we say easier way, okay, of following the Tao, okay, all right, okay, so additional meaning of second phrase is, same thing can happen in spiritual cultivation. Now, previous, we were using the traveling metaphor, okay, like the journey in life, but the same thing is in spiritual cultivation, people, who wish to become more spiritual or to attain enlightenment, to be more at peace, to have more harmony in their lives, or to be wiser, they may try shortcuts because the normal approach or standard approach seems to take a very long time. When we say, oh, you have to cultivate the Tao. Well, how long? How long? People would ask, well, how long? Can I do it in 1 week? It's like going to class or school for a couple years and then I'm done? No, it's for the rest of your life, right? So it takes a long time. It's for the rest of your life. But people were saying, that's too long, right? I don't have time for that. Spend my whole life following the Tao, cultivating the Tao. Maybe there's a shortcut, a shorter way, right? So that's why, it's not just today. During the time of Buddha, same thing. They have people, like that have the same desires, thoughts about cultivation. Okay, so because of this desire, then there are books, seminars, gurus that cater to this demand. I mean, you go to the internet, or go to, whatever bookstore section about, I don't know, that they call personal. I forgot, personal advancement or whatever. And, there are tons of books, okay, about I can teach you to, to live the life you want, in 1 month or whatever, after you read this book or attend this seminar or whatever. Okay, so that's the human condition, right? We're impatient. We always want to see, find the shortest way, right? Okay, or the easiest way. All right. So why do people like the side paths, the shortcuts? Because the actual Tao cultivation seems like it would take quite some time, the rest of your life. And people may think they don't have the time. People are tempted by the promise of quick results or instantaneous gratification. That's the problem. Okay, that's the human condition. Okay, we always want to find the easy way, right? The path of least resistance, right? That's natural, I guess. Okay, but they don't realize that the Tao is just in everyday life. It's for the rest of life. Okay, so the Great Dao is like a broad, even, level, and plain road because its essence is simplicity. Remember simplicity of the Nameless from chapter 37. All right. Okay, so the higher understanding is that, okay, all right. The Tao is a broad and level road to travel on because it was always meant to be a practical guide to life, never meant to be intentionally vague, never intended to be open to many different interpretations, never meant to have side paths or shortcuts in Tao cultivation. So the Tao is the easy path, but it may not look straight or even. Remember chapter 41, right? The smooth Tao appears uneven, chapter 41, or the great straightness seems bent, chapter 45. Okay. These chapters 41, 45 describe the Tao as smooth or even and straight. This is metaphysical, though, not material. Okay, it's not meant to be, tangible sense, but it's a metaphysical sense. But because people are limited by material and worldly perceptions or desires or attachments, they cannot see that. Okay, that the Tao is really, we can say, straight. Okay, level, smooth, wide, all that. Okay, or okay, that. All right. Okay, the main road has a longer distance to travel. That's the point, because longer distance meaning, like in our journey of life, it's for the rest of your life. Now, unless you say, oh, I have a short life, I only have 1 year to live. Okay, that's different. But normally, it's for the rest of your life. right? It's not one day, 1 month, or 1 week, 1 year. It's the rest of your life, however long that may be, or short. Okay, maybe, but it's so. So the main road has a longer distance to travel, but the side path is shorter. Yeah, people think, hey, the side path is a shortcut. That's why it's called side path. So most people prefer the side paths because they desire shortcuts. There are no shortcuts, though, in Tao cultivation. It's just normal, regular, everyday living and practice for your whole life. Okay. So the broad, even, plain, and smooth Tao is easy to traverse. Okay. Let's look at part one, a summary. Okay. I'm going to go to, right. All right. What's the great Tao? The great Tao. Okay. It's one, we should, according to, well, Lao Tzu is, right? He said, walking on the great Tao, I only fear deviating from it. So, you want to walk the path or follow the Tao without strain. Okay. So that's the best thing we can do for self. Because of this, why? Because the Tao is broad, even, smooth, and paved road. It's a paved road. It's meant for us. So it is open and available to everyone. We can all be on together. It is wide and accommodates everybody. Okay, so that's what the great Tao is. It's not just for one specific group of people, etc., but it's for everybody. And even though it may seem longer, but it is still the fastest and easiest route. Okay, it is the way that brings lasting happiness. So we should be aware of the side paths or shortcuts, okay? Because there are no books, no sutras, teachings that can provide instant, quote unquote, spiritual results, because spirituality grows over the course of Tao cultivation. So this process cannot be rushed, okay? It's every day. So there is a, okay, so this is the long, well, I can say the long long aspect of our Tao cultivation. There's an instant aspect, which is to realize our Buddha nature essence. So these two parts are merged, are together. Okay, all right. So, all right. So that's what it is. Okay, all right. The key point is, so now it's very broad. Just in our daily, if we are all in accordance with the filial piety. Okay, nature means, in this case, yeah, it's like the original state of our nature essence. Yeah, right. Okay, to be born to nature is to be in accordance with our nature essence. Okay, to conform, right? Okay, to that. So when that's the case, then in the home there will be filial piety, and outside there will be love or care, friendship between friends, where all the friends are able to care for each other and then also benefit sentient beings. So isn't this broad, level, smooth, and easy, right? Okay, but we have deviated from the great Tao. That is, we don't want to traverse the long main road and instead want to walk on the shorter side paths. Okay, so do not desire the small side paths or shortcuts. You still need to take the broad path. This section, Lao Tzu was pointing out the differences between the right path, the Tao, and the many possible side paths. Okay, so let's look at table A. Oops, wrong table here. Table A, okay? So we have 4 columns here. Okay. Okay, so the first 2 is talking about the Great Tao. Well, column A is Great Tao, column C is the meaning, column E is side paths, and G, its meaning. So if we look at the Great Tao, now I'm using 3 metaphors. You guys can come up with more if you want, but basically, the Great Tao, the one description of it is it's level or straight. Okay, so what it means is it's direct, open to all, no special requirements. just very simple application to life. Now, the side path, okay, on the other hand, talks about it's not straight. What's the opposite of straight? Well, we could say twisted, right? Windy, twisted, okay? And the meaning, it just means that it's deceptive, a path that initially promises a lot. Oh yeah, you can do this, in a short time, right? Or with very little effort, etc., etc. Okay, so it promises a lot, but fails to deliver in the long run. Now, the broad path, the broad path. The broad, wide way of the Tao. Okay, it's a wide path. It's a wide path that welcomes all. It is meant for traveling with family, friends, and everyone. On the other hand, the side paths are narrow, and it's the path of isolation, meaning that you tend to go into the extremes, okay, and leads to impractical and extreme views. Okay, you have to go away to some special place, a mountain, or I don't know, a cave or whatever. Okay, so that's a side path. Now the other one is of the Tao is that it's flat. We say flat, even, smooth. Okay, it's smooth and even. The life journey has a graceful and easy flow. Okay, with the grace. Okay. On the other hand, the side path is rough. It's bumpy. You can say it's bumpy. It's rough. Life full of problems, contention, seething, resentment, all that. Right. Okay. So that's the difference between the Great Dao, which is smooth, straight, broad, wide, level, etc. Okay, versus the side path, which is twisted, narrow, and rough. Okay. All right, let's go back. Okay. All right, so that's the difference. Okay, now we're in section 2, which is, okay, now here comes the analysis. Now, the courts are corrupt. The fields are barren. The warehouses are empty. What's he talking about? Okay. Now, Cao, literally means royal court or court official, but it means to be an official too, as a verb. Okay. All right. Cao. Okay. Tu. Yeah. Tu. Yeah. Okay. Tu means, okay. In this, all right. The dictionary meaning, it's okay, literally it means steps. The modern day usage. Okay, the meaning is steps. Okay, steps leading to a palace or tower, etc. But it also means to appoint to office. Now it also means to divide, to exclude. Right? Okay. But in the ancient context, okay, it refers to the divisive effect of corruption, or the opposite of being unified in a spirit of harmony. Okay, so that's why it is translated as the courts are corrupt, or the officials are corrupt. Okay, so basic meaning is Lao Tzu is pointing out the wrong paths in a very specific way, right? Where in the intro, he talked about the side paths. Well, he's talking about a very specific side path, a specific example of a side path. Okay, that is corruption in the ruling hierarchy will not be the Tao. Okay, now, anytime you see a reference in the Tao Te Ching about rulers, right? When they say rulers, either be Hou Wang or Guo Wang. He doesn't say Guo Wang, but he will say Wang, meaning king. Okay. Whenever he uses that term, either king, sovereigns, stuff like that, ruling hierarchy. Okay, it's a metaphor about your own role as the ruler of your life, your destiny. So he's not just referring to, actually the, kings, rulers, or ruling hierarchy of a specific of a country or kingdom, but he's also talking about yourself, that you are the sovereign or the king of your own life, right? That's also what it means. Okay, all right. So another meaning of first phrase on that society level, we say kingdom level, society level. Corruption divides because it breeds chaos and contention. It turns people against one another, right? That's what corruption does, right? Corruption. Okay. So on a personal level, corruption can show up as learning Tao teachings, but not applying them to your life, being inconsistent in what you learn and what you practice. Okay. So that's what you mean by personal corruption. Okay. So the practice of the constant Tao is also consistent in that what you say is what you actually do, walk the talk. Okay, so let's look at Appendix A. All right, okay, here it is. Okay, the courts are corrupt, or officials are corrupt, okay, or the ruling class are corrupt. That's all what it means. Okay, so now we're looking at the difference between ancient metaphor and today, okay, modern life. Okay, so now, the modern life would be about you. That's what I'm saying. Okay, not necessarily the corrupt government, etc. Okay, because the corrupt government today would also apply under the ancient metaphor. Okay, so the ruler and ministers are corrupt and self-serving. Okay, so in the modern life equivalent to us as individuals is your spiritual core has been corrupted by egocentric desires, right? The 6 desires and the 7 emotions, right? Previous chapter. Okay. Also, in the ancient metaphor about the courts are corrupt, or is that the rulers are corrupt, is that they neglect the needs of the kingdom. They do not build or maintain the infrastructure, for example. In modern life is to us, is problems start creeping into your life. There are problems and say you'll do something about them, but you haven't yet. Okay. And the third metaphor for the courts are corrupt is ancient metaphors. Everything's status quo. That means there's no change, okay? No improvement, no new initiatives, no reforms, no explorations, no improvement. They just want to enjoy their lives of luxury, right? Okay. Now, on the modern metaphor or modern life, as an individual, you feel stuck, unmotivated, uninspired, nothing new, not learning anything. So there's spiritual stagnation. Okay, so that's what the courts are corrupt. Lao Tzu was saying. Yeah, he was not just talking about the rulers, but also hinting at our individuals, okay, self who don't want to improve, okay, or you feel stuck. And the main reason is because we have been corrupted by egocentric desires, okay? Our egos, right? That oftentimes get in the way, right? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So the deeper understanding of first phrase about the courts are corrupt is originally it's supposed to be the virtuous one which resides in us. That's the master. That's our Buddha nature essence. But our birthless and vanishingless Buddha nature is no longer giving the orders, no longer in charge. Instead, who are giving the orders? It's our 6 roots. Okay, they're our masters. All right. Let's look at the second half of the phrase. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Now we're talking about the fields are barren. Okay. So this is what it means. The fields, it's rice paddies. Okay. Cropland, farmland. Okay. This means barren. Now, barren is more metaphorical, but the literal meaning of wu means it's overgrown with weeds. Okay. It's disorderly. Okay. All right. So at a society level or kingdom level in ancient time, the farm fields that have nothing left to harvest would be a dreaded sign of famine to come, right? So there's no harvest, right? A field. Now, personal level, this means your work productivity dries up. You lose your productivity in different aspects of your life. Okay, not just at work, but different aspects. Okay, that means you think you're doing things, but you're not going anywhere, right? You're not improving. You're not, right? Okay, all right. Make no progress, etc. Okay, so the cause of this loss of work production is due to the chaos in your spiritual life. The lack of peace of mind, the strife that is in your spiritual core. That's the main reason for why, you have no productivity or you're not making progress. Okay, now this state of chaos all starts from the corruption of society that is strayed from the path of Tao. Okay, now this seventh phrase, this is the seventh phrase, okay, and it flows from the, it flows from the previous phrase, sixth phrase. So we're now in the analysis section. So here it is, right? 6, 7, 8. Okay, they all flow. Okay, so in this case, the fields are barren. The seventh phrase flows from the sixth phrase. And then likewise, we're going to see the eighth phrase, the warehouses are empty. It's going to flow from the seventh phrase. Okay, so these three phrases are linked. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's look at Appendix B. That should be okay. Fields are barren. Okay, so now there's the ancient metaphor, that applies to, say the kingdom society, ancient society, and versus your modern life metaphor context. Okay, so where's my mouse? I lost my. Okay, here. All right, at the ancient metaphor level. Okay, so it fields are barren now. This is what the fields are barren. Okay, so there's heavy taxation due to corrupt rulers and ministers. Okay, so that's why the fields are barren. Okay, so in modern level or in individual perspective, it's your troubled spirit. That's from previous phrase, right? The courts are corrupt. All right, the courts are corrupt. That means your spiritual core has been corrupted by egocentric desires. So that imposes a burden on everything you try to do. Everything comes from the spiritual core. Now, the other reason why the fields are barren is because bureaucratic requirements make everything more difficult. Everything you try to accomplish becomes more difficult. That's the ancient metaphor. Okay, and the modern life is you get in your own way and make things more complicated for yourself or self-sabotage. Okay, now the ancient metaphor for fields are barren at the social level, kingdom levels. People lack the motivation to work due to the heavy taxation and bureaucracy. That's the first two bullet points. Resources go to waste. Agricultural production plummets. And at the individual level, modern life is you do your work at a level far below your potential. You're just going through the motions. Okay, so that's the the impact on an individual level. Okay. All right. Okay. So here's a deeper understanding of the fields are barren. It just means that the fields are barren is a metaphor for us not cultivating our hearts and minds. Okay. So that's the internal aspect. Okay. As opposed to the external, right? That we're not getting anywhere, right? We're not doing, our work productively, or we're not being efficient. Okay, but this is the internal, is cultivating our hearts and minds. So our minds are already overgrown with weeds. The weeds are metaphor for chaos, negativity, turmoil, etc. All things that are not Tao centric or Tao like. Okay, all right. So the third phrase, that's line 8 or phrase 8, right, is that's up here, right? We say the warehouses are empty, right? That's this. Warehouses are empty. Okay, so so the basic meaning is at a society level. Remember, since the fields are empty, that's the fields are barren, right? The previous phrase. There's no harvest to fill the warehouses, while the previously stored grain were quickly used up. Okay, so this third phrase. This phrase flows from phrase 7. This eighth phrase flows from seventh phrase, just as the seventh phrase flows from the sixth phrase. Okay, so let's look at table B. Okay, table B. Okay, that's here. All right, the wrong path. All right, we're talking about the shortcuts. This is the wrong path. Okay, so there's the metaphor, and then how it relates, what its you could say significance in the ancient society and to you. Okay, so we say the courts are corrupt. Okay, so that's the ruling elite. Sorry. Okay, ruling elite did not care. They administer poorly, if at all. The Tao is miss, and on a personal level, the Tao is missing from your life. You have strayed from the path. Now, this has consequences leading to the next, okay, which is that the fields are barren. So because of, in the ancient society metaphor, because of the corruption, the fields become barren, producing nothing. Whereas on your personal level, the chaos in your life prevent you from being productive. And this also has further consequences. Therefore, the warehouses are empty. So in a ancient society level, due to the lack of harvest, there's nothing to be stored in warehouse. Whereas on your personal level, without positive energy, because your spiritual core is corrupted, an empty void comes into every aspect of life. Okay. All right. Let's go back. Okay. So additional meaning is that on a personal level, the empty warehouse is a metaphor for the state of negative kind of emptiness in all your aspects of life, and agonizing gnawing emptiness of the heart. Okay, in the heart, that's the internal. Okay, besides, your life is empty, right? Like you're lonely, no friends, nothing gets done, etc. Okay, but this is the internal. Okay, further understanding is the warehouse is an analogy of many things, right? Both tangible and intangible. So, for example, our aspects of life, family, friendships, relationships, work, finances, mind, spirituality, etc. Okay, so Appendix C. Okay, here warehouses are empty, right? So at the ancient metaphor level, just means lack of agricultural production, means little or no harvest. Okay, so this is external too, but just lack. We say at the ancient metaphor because Lao Tzu was talking about the ancient kingdoms. Okay, so in modern life though, it just means the inability to function at your best. So you produce this negative consequences, okay? Now, in ancient metaphor level, the empty warehouse is also a symbol of the depletion of resources in the kingdom overall, all right? So and in a modern level, it just means the modern flow of affluence stops and you start using up resources you set aside before, okay? So lastly, the empty warehouses at the ancient kingdom, metaphor level we're talking about, or the scope, it's that there's possibility of famine and starvation, okay? It's going to be very real, okay? At the modern life level, individual level, it's not just about financial aspects, okay? It's about emptiness becomes the norm of your life, all right? Okay, you're isolated, you're alone, you're feeling what we call alienated, that type of thing. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, top of page 5. Okay, so the deeper understanding is the warehouses are empty. It's a metaphor for us not genuinely learning the Tao or internalizing the Tao, not actually practicing virtue or lacking any actual ability, competence, capability, or talent. So there's nothing at all. All right. So this is the more specific, okay, more specific meaning, all right, of the warehouses are empty. Now, these 3 phrases, right? The courts are corrupt, right? The fields are barren. The warehouses are empty. Okay, that's these phrases in the second section are metaphors for the manifestations of the wrong side paths and their negative consequences for the society and individuals. Okay, so this all starts with the corruption created within us when the 6 roots become our masters. Okay, so the implication is by practical, honest, and real learning very truly, we can learn to be a person of circumstance who's magnanimous. Okay, this is a idiom. Well, it's an idiom for 宰相肚里能藏 chuan. Okay, that means 长 means to, you can say to navigate, propel a boat. Okay, so that's within the belly. 宰相 literally means a minister. It just means a person of some kind of worth or value. Okay, person, all right, person of circumstance who's magnetic. Okay, so this way we will possess all the ability, competence, capability, and talent. This is to follow the path to the Great Dao. Okay, so the key is by not staying on the broad level path of the Great Dao, the society and you will become corrupted, and our 6 roots and egos take over, and chaos results. So the best way to prevent all of this is to follow the path, the Tao, not to take the side paths. Okay. Now this is the beginning of the 3rd section. Okay, the top 4 phrases, first 4 phrases of the conclusion of the 3rd section. Okay, not the conclusion, but it's pre-conclusion. Okay, anyway, so it just means officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords, fill up on drinks and food, acquire excessive wealth. All right, so this phrase, the 2nd and 3rd word of the first phrase, okay, 文采, it means colorful, elegant, ornate garments, fineries, etc. Okay, fancy accessories. Okay, stuff. All right. So the basic meaning of first phrase is, it's in reference to the ruling class. That's what Lao Tzu was referring to, at least on the surface level meaning. The officials wear elegant and ornamental garments, extravagant, colorful attire. Okay, so another understanding is, while the kingdom suffers, these ruling class, these people, these court officials, the ruling class, wear extravagant attire. So Lao Tzu is critical of the corrupt ruling class. All right, he's being very maybe not too subtle there. But anyway, so the fineries represent the surface appearance of luxury. Okay, that's another level of interpretation, and the way to interpret. Okay, so at a personal level, it just depicts or describes a pattern where you put up a superficial front of extravagance, a facade of luxury. Okay, now there's a deeper understanding, deeper level of officials wearing fineries. Okay, it's the opposite of wearing elegant fineries, means the graceful and refined nature within us, and then of the superior person. Okay, that is the advanced Tao cultivators. So they possess both refinement and substance. So people are very glad to see them. Okay, so that's the opposite of the superficial meaning. Okay, of what the ruling class, the corrupt officials wearing elegant attire or fineries, is that it's more internal within, that as we just like the superior persons have this graceful and refined nature within us. Okay, so that's the opposite. Okay, now the second phrase is carry sharp swords. Okay, what does that mean, carry sharp? So the basic meaning is sharp swords is another metaphor. Okay, it's a symbol of domineering aggression. Okay, dominance. Okay, domineering aggression. Okay, so another meaning is at the ruling class level, the sword was a tool of intimidation, a threat, or physical harm. Okay, now at the personal level, what's a sword mean? Sharp sword. It's our ego-based attacks. Okay, egocentric aggression. Okay, all right. So further understanding is, just as the ancient rulers used their swords against people, your sword is ready to cut others down to size if they say something you don't like. So you are being defensive about being on the wrong path, being in denial. Okay, so that's our egocentric, aggressive self, our aggressive response. Okay, so the deeper understanding of carrying sharp swords is, what's the opposite of sharp swords? Is after we have real, true learning, when determining whether matters are correct or wrong, we can immediately see their upside, we say pros, okay, and downside, cons. So it literally means highs and lows. That's the translation. But we can resolve this issue right away. We will not be hesitant or indecisive. All this requires our diligence in actual learning from the previous line. So, okay. So this is the opposite, all right, of carrying sharp swords, okay? So now, Lao Tzu did not specifically say what the opposite is. We have to sort of like extrapolate from that. So that's the thing with the Tao Te Ching, and if you read all 81 chapters, right, they're all relatively short. I mean, besides a couple chapters, which is pretty long, but Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, that's the difference between Lao Tzu and, let's say, Confucius to some degree, but definitely to Buddha. Okay, Buddha's teachings are very specific, very detailed. Okay, whereas Lao Tzu is not. Okay, so that's the difference. Lao Tzu is more generic, more general. So that's why there are layers, different layers of meaning. That does not to say that Buddha doesn't have different layers of meaning. He does. His teachings, a lot of his teachings does have that. Okay, but Buddha's teachings are very specific, very detailed, whereas Lao Tzu is not. So that's why, like in this chapter, carrying sharp swords, right? Carrying sharp swords or wearing, fine ornaments or elegant attire. We have to glean. So Lao Tzu is saying, okay, this is not right. Okay, these are the results, right? Carrying, sharp swords and wearing elegant attire is the result, right, of the courts are corrupt, fields are barren, warehouses are empty, and so we have to. So that's not following the Tao. These are all shortcuts or side paths, and so we have to do the opposite. Okay, so that's why we have to. Okay, we have to think. We have to think. So when we read Lao Tzu, that's not to say if you read, Confucius or the Buddha's sutras, you don't think. No, but at Lao Tzu especially, you really have to think. Okay, you really have to go deeper. Okay. All right. Then the third phrase of fill up on drinks of food. Okay, fill up. Okay, so the basic meaning is that the third phrase is at the ruling class level, the corrupt rulers waste more and more while the people have less and less. Okay, so more broadly, the drinks and food represent material pleasures that the corrupt rulers overindulge in. Okay, at the personal level, this is all about overconsumption, spending money we don't have, etc. Right? Okay. Remember we talked about something similar in previous chapters, right? I think it says I think it's daily laws, Taoist daily laws. I think it's chapter 44. Okay. All right. Excessive love, craving can lead to great spending. Okay, that's what it is. Chapter 44. Okay, for further understanding is, whether in ancient times or today, this is a pattern that manifests right before total collapse, the fall of the ruling dynasty, empires in the past. Today, societies, economies, personal finances, one's health, emotional well-being, etc. Right? We tend to overindulge, overconsume. Right? You hear the peak. Right, the peak of society's excesses, just like in 2008. Right, the financial collapse. Right, okay. People who are, I don't know, whatever. They're buying up property at unrealistic values, right? And then it's going to reach a peak, right? And then boom, the whole system collapses, right? Okay, so that's what happened in 2008, right? Okay, and personally, it's the same idea, right? We overconsume, we spend money we don't have, we mortgage our future, et cetera, and then at some point, it's going to collapse because that's non-sustainable. Because it's, I don't want to say it's a cliche, right? It's a house of cards. It's all smoke and mirrors, right? So Same idea. Okay. All right. So now there's a deeper understanding of their phrases. The opposite of filling up on drinks and food or on material pleasures is we should not eat non-vegetarian drinks or food. Okay, so that's pretty obvious. That's pretty, basic. Okay, very, very basic, very superficial level. But we should eat foods that are light, not greasy or heavy. 平淡, right? The fourth, the third, I think it's the third. Well, it depends on how you order, but it's one of the four normals, right? Things that are very plain, right? Not just plain. Plain. It could also mean, honest. No, 平淡 just means plain, lightly flavored, okay? Or not overly ornate, right? Okay, so you can say it's pretty simple. It means simple too. So we strongly abhor those heavily flavored animals. So that's at the very, very basic level that, rather than overindulge or overconsume on material pleasures, food, etc. No, we shouldn't eat non-vegetarian food or drinks. Okay, so that's another very basic. Okay, what I mean. Okay, so then there's a fourth phrase, which is what? Acquire excessive wealth. Okay, so at a society level, it just means similar to the previous phrase about overindulgence and consumption. That's where the wealthy gain more and more wealth. Okay, while the peasants starve, the lower class starve. So it's basically in today's society, it's like the rich gets richer, the poor gets poorer. Okay, all right. Another thing is, meaning is, we see this pattern in our world as the instinct to hoard, to get much more material things than we need or can use. All right. So that's a natural human, you can say, tendency. All right. Okay. So at the kingdom level, while the ruling class appears to have everything, in reality, the kingdom has become desperately poor. This was true then and just as true today, because Lao Tzu spoke of the human condition, that is, human nature has not changed since the ancient times. Okay, that's the problem. All right, the human condition hasn't changed. Okay, so at a personal level, so apply to life. This is the difference between appearance and reality. It's about delusional denial. You may believe that everything is about to get better, but at the core, it's still an empty warehouse. Okay, so the fourth phrase about acquiring excess wealth. Okay, so the opposite of acquiring excess money and property, they are used for the benefit of sentient beings. It's to be used for sentient beings. Okay, that's the opposite of acquiring or hoarding wealth. Okay, or excess wealth. Okay, so it does not matter whether internally or externally, they all could serve people. There's ability and talent internally, and there is impressive and dignified manner externally. They can subdue all those not so ideal sentient beings, or not so ideal. It just means that those who tend to be very selfish, right, over hoarding, right, that's how we can overcome those type of people, all right, by our internal ability and talent and our external behavior, okay, appearance. Okay, so the implication is these four phrases, right, which is officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords, fill up on drinks and food, and acquire excessive wealth, are metaphors for the manifestations of the wrong paths. Okay, so those are metaphors. All right, let's go to table C. Okay, so the wrong paths. Okay, now this come from the previous table or the previous three metaphors, right? The courts are corrupt, fields are barren, warehouses are empty. Okay, so first one. Okay, officials wear fineries. So at the corrupt rulers level, we say they flaunt material luxuries while the people shiver in the cold. Okay, people are, can't afford anything. Okay, yet the ruling elite or the corrupt rulers, they flaunt, they show off how wealthy they are. Okay, at the personal level, you project the image of prosperity, but it's only a facade. Okay, now at the the other metaphor for carrying sharp swords is at the corrupt ruler's level is they protected their position of privilege by using threats and intimidation, right? Yeah. So, we have lobbyists today, that basically, right? They exert their influence on the people in power to preserve their position, right? Of privilege, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, well, now at the personal level, you get defensive and go on the attack when someone points out the truth, right? So it becomes a matter of ego, okay? So filling up on food and drinks, and food means that at the corrupt rulers, rulers level, they overindulge in material pleasures while people suffer in misery. Whereas at the personal level, you try to forget about your problems by numbing yourself with distractions, okay? All right. And then acquire excessive wealth. Okay. Acquire excessive wealth. That means at the ruler level, okay, they accumulated personal wealth while people struggle to survive. Okay, so, right? That's even, okay, well, that's why it's not an ancient metaphor. It's it was true back then, right? Okay. But also today, right? The ruling elite, you know, practically everybody in the Senate has to be a millionaire, right? People in position of power have to be wealthy, right? The top 1% owns over half of America's wealth. Okay. So, and the middle class is shrinking and the poor gets poorer, right? Same idea. The personal level, you insist nothing is wrong and delusionally think you will be successful. Okay. So that means, we're not really seeing the true picture, seeing the light at the tunnel. I mean, well, we delusionally think, oh, we're okay, nothing, there's no problem, but there is a problem. Okay, so these four, results or metaphors, okay, all come from the previous, which is, this. Okay, all right. So that's all result of that. Okay, so okay, all right. So now, let's go back. Okay, so the key point is, although Lao Tzu did not specifically mention the right path, okay, he did not specifically, go into details saying what's the right path, but we can deduce it by doing the opposite of the wrong paths, the side paths that are contrary to the Tao. All right, so so that's why I'm saying in the Tao Te Ching, you have to, I don't say think, but you have to dig deeper, okay, to get to the, to see the full picture, the meaning. Okay, all right. So let's go to Appendix D, and then we can go to diagram 1. All right. Okay, Appendix D. That should be the bottom of page 10. Yep. Okay. So that's the right path versus the wrong paths. Okay, right versus wrong path. So we can deduce the right path of the Tao as follows. That's the opposite of the wrong paths. That's why I stated earlier. Okay, so 1, the courts are corrupt. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, so by having our Buddha nature as our master, that's the internal side. Okay, instead of our 6 senses, while living life with orderly harmony, that's external. So instead of chaotic corruption. Okay, so that's the right path. Okay, so you start out. Remember, this means courts are corrupt, right? That's the section 2, right? The very first line, okay, or first phrase. Okay, so we need to have the Buddha nature as our master. That's the internal side. And then externally, we live a harmonious life, okay, orderly life. Then the fields are barren. Okay, what's that mean? Literally, yeah, farmlands are not being planted, overgrown with weeds. But metaphorically, on individual level, it means we have to cultivate our hearts and minds. That's the internal side, okay? While keeping busy with productive, meaningful, and fulfilling work and being of service to the world, to the society, to everybody else, to others. That's the external, okay? Then warehouses are empty. It means receiving bountiful harvest, abundance, and prosperity. Okay, this is not all just materials or tangible things, but it's your ability, competence, and talent. So by the diligent, honest, true learning, that's the internal side. An actual practice of Tao teachings, that's the external side. To become a person of circumstance who is magnanimous. Okay, so that's what the opposite of the warehouses are empty means. Okay. Officials wear fineries or elegant attire. Okay, so the opposite of that is being authentic and genuine instead of flashy and superficial. By having refinement and substance, that's the internal side. The refinement substance means our Buddha nature essence. Okay, and the innate Buddha nature wisdom or Mahaprajna. Okay, so while displaying awe-inspiring and dignified manners, that's the external side, like a superior person. Okay, so that's what it means to wear fineries. Okay, the opposite. Okay, of the basic meaning. Okay, of that or superficial meaning. Okay, all right. To carry sharp swords. What's the opposite of that? It's by being able to clearly see and understanding everything right away. That's the internal. We say 了了分明. Okay, that's when we allow our Buddha nature, that's the first line, right? First line here, to be our master. Okay, that's the key. All right. So once we could do that, then we can see everything clearly. Okay, understand everything right away, while treating others well and getting along with everyone. That's the external, okay, side. Okay, so that's the opposite of carrying sharp swords. Then, what's that? Filling up on drinks and food. The opposite is to enjoy the pleasures of life in moderation. Okay, so that's the opposite, okay, of filling up with food, drinks and food, while having purity and simplicity in the mind. That's internal. That's the Tao. Basically, you are aligned, okay, you are congruent with your Buddha nature. Okay, and then in words and eating vegetarian, that's the external, okay, or I mean, in words, it's more, it's more, okay, because one is coming in, the other is going out. Okay, words is going out, eating vegetarian is coming in, right? But that's the external aspect, okay? And then what? Acquiring excess wealth, right? The opposite is to share the resources, the money, property, etc., in the spirit of compassion by being in accord with your conscience. That's our internal, right? Our conscience. We follow our conscience, okay? And then benefiting or giving charity for all sentient beings. That's the external. So that's the right path, okay? Versus the wrong paths, okay? All right. It says a diagram. Yeah, here's diagram. Here's the diagram. Okay, the diagram is, okay. Now, you guys can see this, right? Yeah. I wanted to do an animation first, starting from the top left, but it's okay. You can see everything. Okay, so the corpse are corrupt. Yeah, the corpse are corrupt means, what's the opposite of that? Okay, so this is the original, right? Lao Tzu saying that this is what the side paths are, right? Okay, so the opposite of that means we live our life with integrity. Okay, then, okay, it has two. Okay, first, with that, it'll lead to the second. Okay, which is on the side path. We say the courts are corrupt. Then that leads to the fields are barren. Then, which in turn leads to the warehouses are empty. Right? Okay. So then the opposite is, if we could live our life in integrity, then we can do productive and positive work. That's the opposite. The fields are barren, right? That's the opposite of this, right? Then doing productive and positive work will lead to what? We gain abundant prosperity. That's the opposite of this, right? But in this, here at the top left, also it leads to this. Leads to this. Okay, be authentic rather than superficial. So this two are related. They go hand in hand. So So that's why you have a double arrow. Okay, double arrow, because they reinforce each other. Okay, this and this. Okay, all right. So then the second one is when we say do productive and positive work. It also leads to and reinforces with being collaborating with others in the spirit of harmony. Okay, so that's what being a team player, right? Not a lone wolf, etc. Okay, now the arrows are not, there are no arrows, because among these three, well, really four qualities, they all could happen independently of each other. Okay, so that's what it's not, but they are related. They are, or now I said related or connected to this. Okay, so to this path. So receiving abundant property, it's what? It corresponds to enjoying all the good things life has to offer in moderation. All right. Okay. Also, receiving abundant property, okay, being the correct path, also leads to what? Sharing our resources with others in the spirit of compassion. Okay, now these four, okay, on the far right, on the right, are opposite of this, right? So officials wear fineries. That means don't be superficial, rather be authentic. Jeez. Okay, rather be authentic, be your real self. Carry sharp swords. That the opposite of that is to collaborate with others in the spirit of harmony. Okay, fill up on drinks and food, to do things in moderation, not to overconsume, overindulge, acquire excessive wealth. The opposite of that, instead of selfish ends, is to share, help others, be a benefit to others in the spirit of compassion, to follow your what? Conscience. All right? Okay, so that's another way of looking at this. Okay, that's what Lao Tzu is talking about. All right? Okay. All right. So here's the conclusion. This is called the arrogance of robbers. It is not the Tao, definitely. Okay, so this is a very interesting conclusion. All right, so the basic meaning of the first phrase is, this is the conclusion from the previous four phrases. That's in the above section, right? Previous four phrases we just talked about, right? Officials wear fineries, carry sharp swords, fill up on drinks and food, and acquire excessive wealth. So this is the conclusion. It's comparing the actions of the rulers or ruling class to the arrogant display of robbers. Okay, it's like saying they're not like no different. It's basically like robbers. Okay, so all right, so this at the kingdom level, this describes the decadent ruler or the ruling class, ruling elites, dominating impoverished peasants as a criminal, robbing the people blind. Now, at the personal level, okay, it's although you are the sovereign of your own life, right? We're the king of our own lives, our own destiny. There's always a chance that you can rule as badly as the worst tyrant, okay? That we can screw it up badly, okay? Even though, we rule our own lives, okay? All right, so for the understanding is, if that's the case, then you are robbing yourself blind, okay? You are depriving yourself the happy life. You're your own king of your life. You can have happiness in your life. It is within your reach. After all, you are your own sovereign. But if you travel down the wrong path, the side paths, you deprive yourself of the happy life that you otherwise could have. All right. So that's the first phrase. Okay. It's called the arrogance of the robbers. Then the last phrase is this. Okay. So basic meaning is, this is not the Tao at all. This is the most emphatic phrase of the entire classic. So it is significant. Why is that? It's very emphatic because in all of the 81 chapters of Tao Te Ching, okay, Lao Tzu in his conclusion, or using the end of each chapter, that never use these two, other than this chapter, I believe, never use these two words together. Okay. All right. Now the first two words, this, as you can tell, it means it's not the Tao. Okay. That's what it means. There's no other possible interpretation possible. Okay. It just means it's not the Tao, not Tao. Literally, it means not Tao, okay? Or un-Tao, okay, not Tao. Now, what about these two words, these last two words? Okay, this word, okay, it literally means, in modern use, it means also, as well, either, too. But that's modern use, modern definition. But in the ancient definition, literary, classical, it's a final particle implying affirmation. It just means to, TOO, to, also, yeah, definitely, it just means an affirmation, okay, of the previous words, okay, it just means, so, right, previous means not the Tao, so not the Tao, definitely, absolutely, positively, etc., etc. Okay, so that's what it means, okay, that's what this would mean, okay, this, okay, so I translate as definitely. You can say absolutely, certainly, surely, stuff like that, okay, all right. Now, but then what about the last word? The last word, 在, means it's a final exclamatory or interrogative particle. In this case, it's exclamatory. It's not a question. Okay, it's an exclamation point. So in ancient Chinese, they don't have punctuations, commas, periods, exclamation points, question marks, quotes, quotation mark. None. They don't use that. They use words. So that's what this means. Okay, so this word, it's very specific. Okay, it's no other possible interpretation. Okay, so it's so in this statement, it's like, especially with these last two words, it's like Lao Tzu putting a double or triple or quad exclamation point. It just means he's stressing it double, twice, okay, for emphasis. That what? Emphasis that it's not the Tao, or that is the previous sections that he was talking about, right? Those four things, the side paths and the four results, right? Okay. So he's saying not the Tao, double exclamation or triple, or definitely, most definitely, for emphasis. Okay. All right. So that's what it means. Okay. So another meaning is, okay, so the last two characters of this phrase indicate this. It ends with two sentence ending characters. That's these two. Okay. So it's like saying this is not the Tao, period. Exclamation point. Or this is absolutely, most certainly, most definitely not the Tao, period. So he's being very, very stressful, very emphatic. Okay. He's super emphatic. Now, in all the other chapters, I don't think we've seen these two words together. Okay, it is not. Okay, so that's why in this chapter, he's telling you very, very clearly that the above, those four things are not the Tao. Most definitely. Okay, so he's making a value judgment right here, right? Okay, so he's saying this. I know this is not the Tao. These are not the Tao. Okay, these things. Okay, the previous section. Okay, all right. So additional meaning of second phrase is this phrase is the strongest possible expression about the furthest thing from the Tao. Not the Tao. That's the symbol of the corrupt officials, right? Rulers. Okay. So we know what the corrupt officials means, right? There's an external kingdom level, and then there's a personal level. Okay. So at the personal level, since we're more interested in that personal level, it just means that if we don't have our Buddha nature as our master, then that's not the Tao. That's the furthest from the Tao. Okay, all right. Okay, so further understanding a second phrase at the personal level is the sovereign is also you, okay, us, who lack the Tao in life. Okay, so that's now at the kingdom level, it's the level of corruption with widespread impact, potentially affecting millions of people, right? That's social kingdom level. Thus, it is extremely important to get off the wrong paths and follow the Tao. So the deeper understanding at the kingdom level is to lack the Tao in rulers or ruling class, elites. It's like the corrupt officials. At the personal level, to lack the Tao in you is like going on the side paths, the wrong paths in life. Okay, so the implication is this. This chapter emphasizes the importance of the path of the Great Dao and the dangers of the wrong paths or side paths that most people prefer with very negative, destructive, and disastrous consequences for the kingdom and individual. So of everything that is contrary to the Tao, the following are the four most extreme or worst. Okay, so that's what Lao Tzu is saying in this chapter. One is what? The phony exterior that hides the awful truth. That's the wearing ornate or attire or wear fineries. Okay, so life is not going so well, but you continue to project a facade to make it seem that everything's fine. So that's you're denying reality. Okay, you don't you need a reality check. You're delusional. Okay, that's another way of saying we're delusional. Okay, so the tactics of intimidation against other people, that's to wear sharp swords, that's being defensive, using various ways to attack people so as not to face reality. It's basically egocentric too, because we have that ego. Our ego are bruised, right? Our egos, our egos are bruised or unwilling to face reality. Okay. Third, the self-serving ego that cares only about its own desires. That's to what? Fill up on what? Drinks and food, right? So it points to the overindulgence and overconsumption, due to our what? Desires and emotions, attachments, cravings, desires, cravings, attachments, etc. Okay. All right. Then the fourth is the lack of empathy for the suffering of others. That's acquiring excessive wealth, right? So the lack of compassion and concern for the suffering of others, and the lack of care and benefit for sentient beings, for others. So remember this chapter, we're talking opposites here, but Lao Tzu just at least told us what are the four things that are definitely not the Tao, right? So even if we do not know that much about the Tao, okay, but we can still tell what is definitely not the Tao. Okay, so that's an insight. Okay, that's what Lao Tzu is telling us in this chapter, right? In this previous section, okay, the second section, telling us that, okay, you may not know exactly, okay, or deeply or totally what the Tao is, but at least you'll know that these side paths, okay, the four here and then the three before that, right, the three are definitely not the Tao. So we can use this insight, that intuition, to help us find and stay on the great Tao. Okay, so the key point is here. It's pretty long here. Okay, so this chapter is a warning about what we must avoid. The side paths, the wrong paths that lead to very negative and dire consequences for the kingdom and yourself, and the manifestations of the wrong paths. Okay, that's the four items, right? The four items above we just talked about here. All right. Okay. So it is about walking on the great Tao. If we even have any sense at all, okay, if we even have any sense at all, that is the broad, level, and smooth great Tao, which is to follow nature, okay, or our own Buddha nature essence, to learn and apply its teachings in everyday life, which we should be fearful of straying, okay, that means to leave the path of the Tao or not cultivate the Tao. So while people prefer the side paths, which are twisted, narrow, and rough, which then lead, okay, to corruption at the kingdom level, that's the corrupt rulers. At the personal level, that's the six roots, are our masters instead of our Buddha nature, which lead to barren fields. At the kingdom level, no harvest. At the personal level, no cultivation of our hearts and minds, and empty warehouses. At the kingdom level or social level, bankruptcy, famine, okay? At the personal level, not truly learning and practicing the Tao, the lack of ability, competence, and talent. These side paths, okay, which in turn manifest as flashy and superficial appearances, okay, that's the wearing fineries, okay? As ego-driven aggression, that's carrying sharp swords. As overconsumption and overindulgence, that's to fill up on drinks and food. And as hoarding of property and wealth, that's to acquire excess wealth. These are the four most extremes, which are most definitely contrary to Tao, okay? Whereas by having, now we're talking about the opposite now, whereas by having our Buddha nature as our masters, by cultivating our hearts and minds, by actual, honest, and real learning and practice of Tao, by being authentic and genuine, that's having refinement and substance, while displaying awe-inspiring dignity, by having clarity while treating others well and being harmonious with everyone, by maintaining purity and simplicity while enjoying life in moderation, by following our conscience while being compassionate and benefiting sentient beings. Okay, that's the opposite of the previous paragraph. Okay, these are the right paths of Tao. This is the vast, grand aspiration of the Tao. This is to follow the Great Dao. This is the even, straight, and wide Tao. This is the Great Dao. Okay. All right. This is the conclusion. Yes, this is the conclusion. Took a little while. Okay. Okay. So if I've said anything wrong or improper, incorrect, I ask for the Buddha's and Lao's guidance and for everyone's guidance as well. Okay. Thank you, everybody.